Have you ever pondered where the Spanish language, the second most spoken language in the world, originated from? Let's embark on a journey back in time to unravel this enigma. The birthplace of the Spanish language as we know it today is the Iberian Peninsula, a landmass that today encompasses Spain and Portugal. However, the story doesn't start there. The roots of Spanish stretch back to the Roman Empire, when Latin was the lingua franca. In the 3rd century BC, Rome conquered the Iberian Peninsula, and with that conquest came the Latin language. This form of Latin, known as Vulgar Latin, was not the highbrow language of the Roman scholars and elites, but rather the everyday language of the common people. Over time, this Vulgar Latin began to evolve and blend with the local languages and dialects of the Iberian Peninsula, eventually giving birth to several Romance languages, one of which was Old Spanish. However, Old Spanish was also influenced by other cultures and civilizations. The Visigoths, a Germanic people who ruled Spain from the 5th to the 8th centuries, left their mark on the language, particularly in terms of military and legal terminology. Then, in the 8th century, the Moors from North Africa invaded Spain, bringing with them the Arabic language. For the next 7 centuries, Arabic had a profound influence on Old Spanish, contributing more than 4,000 words, many of which are still in use today. In the 13th century, King Alfonso X of Castile, also known as Alfonso the Wise, played a vital role in standardizing the Spanish language. He established a team of scholars who translated important works from Latin, Hebrew, and Arabic into Spanish, helping to spread and standardize the language across his kingdom. So, the Spanish we know today started its journey in the Iberian Peninsula, enriched by many cultures and civilizations. It's a testament to how languages are not static but dynamic and ever-evolving, shaped by the ebb and flow of history. But how did a language from a small European peninsula reach the far corners of the world? Let's journey back to the late 15th century. The age of discovery was in full swing, and new lands were being charted by fearless explorers. Among these explorers was a man named Christopher Columbus, an Italian mariner under the auspices of the Spanish monarchy. His voyages across the Atlantic Ocean in 1492 marked the beginning of centuries-long episodes of exploration and colonization by the Spanish Empire. But Columbus didn't just bring ships and sailors to the New World. He also brought a language, Spanish. As the Spanish Empire's influence spread through the Americas, so too did its language. The conquistadors, Spanish soldiers and explorers were instrumental in this process. They established colonies, built cities, and introduced Spanish to the indigenous peoples. Over time, Spanish became the lingua franca, the common language used for communication between different language groups. But it wasn't just about communication. The Spanish language was a tool of empire, used to assert dominance and control. It was the language of the law, of the church, and of administration. Spanish was taught to the indigenous peoples, often by force, and over time, it supplanted many local languages. It's important to note, however, that this wasn't a one-way street. As Spanish spread, it also absorbed influences from the indigenous languages it encountered. Words for local plants, animals, and customs found their way into Spanish, enriching the language and making it a true linguistic melting pot. By the late 18th century, Spanish was the dominant language in most of Latin America, from Mexico in the north to Argentina in the south. It was spoken by millions and would continue to grow in influence and reach over the following centuries. So, when we ask how Spanish reached the far corners of the world, we must look back to the voyages of Columbus, the conquests of the Spanish Empire, and the enduring impact of colonial rule. The Spanish language spread far and wide, echoing the footsteps of the conquistadors. From its humble beginnings, Spanish has become a global language. But how global is it exactly? Well, let's find out. Spanish, or Español as it's known to its speakers, is more than just a language. It's a bridge connecting cultures, continents, and people. Today, it stands as the second most spoken language in terms of native speakers, right after Mandarin Chinese, and is an official language in 21 countries. Spanish is the dominant language in the vast expanse of Latin America, excluding Brazil and a few smaller nations. This alone accounts for a staggering 400 million people. But it doesn't stop there. Let's head north to the United States, where Spanish is the second most spoken language with over 40 million speakers. This number is growing daily, making the US home to the second largest Spanish-speaking population in the world, just behind Mexico. But Spanish isn't confined to the Americas. It echoes through the bustling streets of Madrid, the sun-kissed beaches of the Canary Islands, and the vibrant plazas of Barcelona. It's also spoken in Equatorial Guinea, the only African country where Spanish is an official language. Beyond these Spanish-speaking nations, the language has found a home in the hearts of millions across the globe. It's estimated that 21 million people are currently studying Spanish as a second language, making it one of the most popular choices for language learners worldwide. From the lively rhythms of flamenco in Spain, to the passionate debates in the Mexican Zocalo, from the epic narratives of Gabriel Garcia Marquez, to the infectious beats of reggaeton. Spanish is a language that vibrates with life and diversity. It's a language of poets and philosophers, of dancers and dreamers. The Spanish language, with its rich history and cultural diversity, has a global reach that extends far beyond geographic boundaries. It has become a universal language, a global phenomenon that continues to grow and influence our world in countless ways. Today, Spanish is not just a language, it is a global phenomenon. Spanish has a rich history, but what does the future hold for this language? As we look forward, we see that Spanish is poised to play an even larger role in global communication. The demand for Spanish language skills in the job market is on the rise, as businesses increasingly recognize the value of reaching out to the more than 400 million native Spanish speakers around the world. Beyond the world of work, the cultural influence of Spanish is also growing. From the catchy beats of reggaeton, to the profound words of contemporary Spanish literature, to the vibrant worlds depicted in Spanish language films and TV shows, Spanish is shaping global pop culture in powerful ways. While we can't predict the future, one thing is clear. Spanish, with its rich history and global reach, is a language that will continue to flourish and influence our world.